What up, what up, what up? Hope everybody's having a great start to their week. Again, this is a dressing room. So I want you to try some of these things on and see how they fit you. If you are unaware, I dropped my recent video, 10 mistakes that even stylish guys make on YouTube. So you can check that out if you're interested. I can get that link to you. But it is just a dressing room and then 10 mistakes stylish guys make that you will benefit from. And since I dropped that video, I wanted to have a continuation on a few more missed takes that men make. So in the video, I'm not going to give you the whole video because then why would you watch it? I do talk about the misconception of a mistake, right? A lot of us, we think about a mistake being a irreversible issue. And while there may be some situations where that happens, where you aren't able to necessarily come back from the situation or the mistake that you made. There's always a new opportunity for you to step into yourself and to pivot and make a new decision, right? So again, remember that this is a conversation, it's not a lecture, but if I'm not really hearing anything from anybody, then I always got something to talk about. So this is what we'll talk about today. But if you have any style questions, you have any life questions that I can answer, then I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Or if you have any rebuttals to anything that I am putting out, I'll welcome the conversation as well. So when I was talking about mistakes, I always like to think of them as a mistake if you were on a movie set or on a TV show and you miss a line or you mess up a line. Most of the time, if we're doing the very best that we can, if we are positioning ourselves to be the best version of ourselves, if we see ourselves as the best version of ourselves, we're still going to miss. We're still going to miss the mark. We're still going to let some people down. We're still going to disappoint people. That doesn't mean that we have to be disappointments or we have to be consistently letting somebody down, right? And even when it comes to style, and I always like to show the correlation between life and style because a lot of times, especially for us as men, we lean into a lot of our style or the superficial things because we don't really have an understanding of what it means or what it represents for us. So if you think about it, when I'm talking to guys, a car, a bank account, a brand, a clothing brand will represent who they are, right? And that is a missed take. It's the opportunity then for them to strip away all those things once we talk, once we have a understanding and help them understand more about themselves. We strip away all of that pause and we help them find out who they are and they realize that they don't need a brand, they don't need a label to give them value. And even then, they still may be investing in quality pieces, but that they realize that it's not about what people are directly seeing, but that they can reshoot, represent what they want to actually say to the world around them. So that's all a mistake is. If you worn a fugazi or a whack piece or ensemble to a club or to an event or out on a date, generally speaking, you're going to have a opportunity to reshoot your shot, right? And even if it's not with the same people or it's not at the same establishment, you've learned something about yourself and you've also learned something about how people are perceiving you. And that's a great thing. You still win. This is why my philosophy now is that I never lose. I only learn or win, right? You never lose, you only learn or win as long as you're willing to take the lessons. And so in the conversation on the video on YouTube. You can check that out now. Well, after this conversation, you can see 10 mistakes that most men make. And again, it's a missed take, so you can always reshoot. So here are a few more mistakes that I believe that men can make when it comes to your life and style. And the first one is a bit contradictory because I think this is every guy's goal, including mine, when we're stepping out, and that is trying to be too cool, right? I used to have this issue where I would go into a space and, my mom, my grandmother, my uncles, everybody in my family always taught me to make sure. Sorry, man, this is bothering me. There you go. Always told me to make sure that I held my head up when I walk into a space, and I was representing myself to the best of my ability. So when I would go into spaces, I would make the mistake of just not really talking to anybody, not engaging with anybody, not really promoting any opportunity to connect with the people that were in the spaces that I was in. And it was because I was trying to be cool. It wasn't because I thought that I was better than anybody else. It was because I was trying to fit in. And even though everybody else is having a good time, everybody else is kicking it, doing whatever, I am trying to play cool. And that was because the reality of it was I tend to be expressive and excitable, right? I'm Samuel L. Jackson in some terms where I'm not yelling. This is just how I talk. You've seen this if you've been rocking with me for a little bit of time in that space. And so I was trying to be too cool. And this also can happen from a stylistic standpoint because what happens for a lot of guys is they try to overly compensate for looks in unnecessary ways. These are the guys who have like 8 rings on their fingers, got mad chains, bracelets. They want to layer all of these different types of items on so that they look cool, they look different, right? And they forget that the goal for a well dressed man is not to look different, it's to look distinguished. Now, I know from a definitive standpoint that sounds like it's the same, but it's different, right? But there are separation. And that is because different could be loud, it could be over the top, it could be garish, it could be extra, right? But distinguished sets yourself apart by doing things that are elevated. And you can do this in a casual way, you can do this in a dressed up way. It doesn't require formality, it requires intentionality and really understanding what you're doing. Now, just to give you context, I've had guys who were that I was working with, and they were like, "Yeah, man, I want to be sophisticated. I want to be suave and refined, but like I'm going to a cookout. Like I can't really do that. This is kind of just t-shirt, shorts, or like a button up and some shorts. Like that's all that's really required. And then we may have some fun. And I say, okay, what type of cookout is it? Is it going to be us family? All right, so then we're gonna temper this a little bit, but we're gonna have some fun with a colorful pant or colorful short or colorful chino, right? And we'll pair this with a great polo, right? When you're stepping out. But then I've had other people who are like, "Yo, I'm going to a cookout, but it's a birthday party, hanging out with some friends." And I'm like, "Okay, so you wanna do a little something?" They like, "Yeah, like let's have some fun." And we throw on a beautiful polka dot shirt, or there's a novelty piece that they're throwing on with different um, looks, whether it's C, or I've even had one that has a middle finger on for a client, but the middle finger, the bird icon is so small that it just looks like a regular shirt when you're looking at it from far off. And so you have that on, a great pair of very washed out yellows or pinks or greens, and then a great pair of loafers instead of sneakers or slides that everybody else is wearing. You start to distinguish yourself from what everybody else is wearing, right? And you distinguish yourself from what everybody else is going to look like. You then pair that with a nice scent, right, that you're throwing on that's going to pair well with a smoky type of smell, and then everything is enhanced. And that's what really creating a distinguished look can do for your overall appearance. And it makes you look cool, but it also keeps you from looking like you're trying to do too much or you're being extra in those spaces. And so that's a mistake and a retake that a lot of guys can utilize when they're trying to be too cool. The next thing that a lot of guys, the lot of The next thing or mistake that a lot of men make is not wearing four season fabrics. And this really came about today when I was thinking about how warm it's about to be in February here in Atlanta. Now, I keep on telling everybody don't buy into this hype. The 70-degree weather is a farce. It's a play. It's fake news, right? It's going to be 70 degrees, but we are still in the false spring or the fake spring because it's still going to get colder. I think that we're due for another freeze, if not two or three, but I definitely know that we're going to be due for another freeze. And so I'm telling a lot of guys, like, don't start pulling out your spring wardrobe yet. We aren't close to Easter. Relax. And a lot of guys make the mistake of buying a lot of seasonal items when the reality of it is that it is going to be um it's more likely to be four seasons in most regions than not. And if even if it's going to be three seasons, or you're going to have, when I say four seasons, that you can wear, the year is basically one season, right? It's between 20 and 30 degrees difference. Um, but if you're going to have a space where you're having an extra heavy winter or a extremely hot summer, the likelihood is that you're going to be in your car most of the time. If you're not in a car, if you're still taking public transit, I've been there, right? Then you definitely have to be more strategic because the friction of walking and moving is going to be something that's going to create heat, right? So it's going to make you warm. And in that case, save for your car and then get back to dressing. So the four season fabrics are going to be the most beneficial because most of the time you're walking from one controlled environment to another controlled environment, and even if you're not, the amount of time that's going to require for you to be out in the elements is going to be limited. So outside of you living in Chicago, Michigan, uh, Ohio, any of these spaces that are going to require you to get out, shovel snow because you don't have a garage, your car's out on the street, right? Most of these other spaces you can still wear four season fabrics. And the benefit of this is that you can layer, right? And I talk about one of the mistakes with layering in my YouTube video, so make sure you check that out. Will P says, I'm definitely the guy who will go to certain outside events in a button down shirt, shorts, and loafers. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. That's definitely not a missed take. It is a reflection of your own personal style. You just want to make sure that you're not creating a space where you're not having a good time because you're worried about the look, or you're making other people uncomfortable. And you'd be surprised how much influence or leverage you can end up creating with your look in a bad way that makes people feel uncomfortable if you're not being strategic with it. But I always say, like, the other side is you being like the cat and do the right thing. I forgot what my man Radio Raheem, when Buddy steps on his sneakers, right? On his Jordans. You don't want to be that guy either. You don't want to be wearing something that you're worried about getting damaged because you were trying to stunt on folks, right? That is a mistake, and there's the opportunity for the retake there. So not wearing your more four season fabrics is a mistake just for me because you're going to be uncomfortable. If it's hot, right, and you're only throwing on linens and you're only throwing on the seersuckers, which I love both of those fabrics, then it's fine. But if you're in a transitional period, if you're in the spring where it is going to be 70 degrees in the afternoon, but it's going to start out being 50 degrees, that linen doesn't play so well anymore. And especially if you're building your wardrobe, a four season fabric or four season option is much better suited, no pun intended, to creating a more cohesive and a more dynamic wardrobe, especially when you're first getting started. So the next thing that I think is a mistake that even stylish men make is a little bit more conceptual. It's a little bit more abstract, but it is missing the moment. And this is more about two sides, right? The first side is you missing the actual moment, not being prepared. And so you're becoming reactive in that space. And then also missing the moment when you're actually in a space because you're so worried about what you look like. And this is why I tell people, one, don't fake it till you make it, practice it till you become it. And I also remind a lot of fellas that you don't need to be new to it if you're true to it, right? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. You don't have to worry about like how you're going to be perceived. So when I've been talking to a lot of guys, I'll see guys who are well dressed for the gram, and then I see them out, and there's an incongruence because they're super casual. There's no translation for the full totality of their look, and it makes me question whether or not they are really stylish or they just look good on camera. So I've seen guys who were suited. I'm talking about shirt, tie, dressed to the nines, and then I see them out and they're on this super urban kick. There's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't look like a guy who claims that they're sartorial because I've seen the guy who's suit and tie, and that's what he shows up as. And then when he's kicking it, he's in a silk knit with a great pair of chinos, trousers, or even dress jeans, but the jeans sit slightly higher. They are still much more formalized. He has a great pair of loafers on, or if he has sneakers on, they're elevated, dressier sneaker, and it still looks true to sartorialism. The guy who is in, sneakers, whatever the latest trend look is, can still be consistent. I have a homie who's just like that. He's a guy who looks very well in suits, but he also transitions into the streetwear modality. And the reason why it works for him is because it's the most authentic version of himself. You see a little bit of that hip hop, you see a little bit of the street culture in his sartorialism, and you see some sartorialism in his street culture. It's how he puts it together. It's still very much uniform. It is not trying to be loud, it's not trying to be brand heavy. It is trying to convey a message of synchronicity in the street as well as in the boardroom, right? In those spaces. And so a lot of guys are not paying attention to the spaces and places that they move in or that they want to move in, and they minimize or they miss the opportunity to really be in that moment because they're trying to scramble to grab something to make themselves appropriate for it. So this is why a lot of times when I'm talking to guys about some of their first purchases, I don't necessarily go for a suit. Me and my mentor have gone back and forth about this numerous times because he would be like, every man should go get a suit. He was following Steve Harvey and pushing Steve Harvey before Steve Harvey, right? Every man doesn't necessarily need a suit though, because that suit ends up sitting in their closet. They never wear it because they don't find them space. They find themselves in those types of spaces. They may be on the golf course, they may go to the cigar lounge, but they don't go to any formalized events. In both of those situations, depending on where you're going, you don't need to be dressed up. You can be casual and still interact with somebody, um, a very high player in that space, right? So it's not necessary for you to be dressed up, but it may be more beneficial or advantageous for you to get a great blazer and a great pair of trousers. Because let's say that guy does want to go to something that is a little dressier, you still have a jacket that you can throw on, a white shirt, and a great pair of gray slacks. You're still in there like swimwear, right? It still works for you. And then you're not worried about how you're looking and potentially missing high level game, high level conversations, or insights or networks that could be of benefit to you as you continue to elevate right in those spaces. So the other side of this is you having the looks but not being practiced in them, right? You have the pieces but you're not practiced, so you're constantly adjusting like I've been doing this whole evening, right? Trying to make sure things are looking good, right? And in that space what ends up happening is you miss those opportunities. And it's the subtle things that will often be some of the most important things. It may be that fleeting look from a young lady who actually had interest in you and could have been a great conversation or a great partner, that you hesitate to move on because you don't know if she's looking at you because you're dressed weird or because something about you is off because you didn't really practice your presentation. It could be a situation where you hesitate to go talk to somebody that you truly admire because you're not feeling confident in yourself. It could be a moment that you're missing of just having a good time because you're self-conscious about what you've put together and what you're continuing to promote or project, right? You're missing those moments to truly engage with your surroundings because you're worried about the image instead of making sure that you're leaving an impression, if for nothing else, an impression of fun. I can't tell you how many times I've gone out to events or situations that I really didn't belong in because it wasn't my type of party, but I always felt self conscious. And so one of my coping mechanisms was to drink. And so I wasn't like an alcoholic or anything like that, but I was a binge drinker, especially in my early 20s. I would go out, I'd have like three or four drinks, but not to enjoy them. I wasn't sipping or taking it through the evening. As a matter of fact, when we were in our early 20s, and I'm sure some other people have done this as well, our pregame was in the car and it was never good alcohol, right? We were drinking Irk and Jerk. Y'all know E&J? Nasty. We were drinking Everclear, right? We never drank MD 2020, but I had some friends who were drinking MD 2020. We were having Adios or Blue motherfuckers. Y'all know what those are? Those blue drinks, like five different alcohols, but they would be cheap because you could get drunk fast, you could get tipsy fast, right? And so there was never really any space for me to be in the moment having fun because I was concerned about like looking crazy or looking like an idiot. The bad part about that was the missed take that I did not correct for years was you look like an idiot. You look crazy when you're doing all those things because you're trying to minimize that feeling, right? My teeth the Gen said E&J is a headache juice MD and an automatic stomach ache. It's nasty, right? Or it was mixing brown and clear. Oh no, was it brown and clear? It's brown and clear. I think I'm in the clear. I don't remember. But I was drinking nasty stuff, right? And the biggest part of that was because I was missing the moment of really discovering, like, yo, I don't even like being in this place in these places. And I remember we would go to that spot, and then maybe every four, we'll say every 4 months, like every quarter to 4 months, I would end up at like a poetry reading or poetry slam or art gallery exhibit or something else. And I remember not wanting to drink, not really wanting to miss the moment, right? I would get excited about going to these opportunities. And I always met interesting people there. I always had great conversations in these spaces, and it was because it was true to who I was, and I wanted to be present for that moment. So maybe that's a slight addendum, is not dressing for who you are, but trying to dress for the space, right? When you start to dress for who you are, you start to enter and find yourself in the spaces that you belong in. Told the story before, so if you've heard it, just oblige me. But we were in this club called Primetime. Primetime was on the east side of Atlanta when I was here in college. And Waka Flocka Flame, for y'all know Waka Flocka, right? Round of applause, baby, make that right. Um, so Waka Flocka was performing, he was new, and he was performing at prime time. Now, me and my homeboys at the time, we enjoyed dressing up. All these, that's just what we were doing. But we go to prime time, we're dancing. Waka Flocka hasn't come out yet, so it's some of the grooves on that would allow you to grind up on a lady, whatever. And so dancing with this girl, and at the time, this is when you could just slide up behind somebody, just start dancing, right? She would give you those three beats, and then she would do the look back, right? So she looked back, and it wasn't that she was disappointed in the face; she was caught off by the appearance, and so she stopped dancing with me immediately. Was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm dancing. She was like, not in that. You gonna mess that up. And I was like, baby, like that's what dry cleaners are for. Like, I got this. And she was like, nah, I'm good. And in that moment, it wasn't the rejection as much as it was the awareness that, like, yo, because mind you, I'm buzzed, right? I'm on my way to more Everclears, right? That I realized like, yo, you don't belong in these spaces. Now you can still enjoy it. I can still go to a concert or what have you, but I realized very quickly that's not the spaces that I belonged in. And so I was dressing for myself, but I was literally out of place. And this has happened probably four or five other times where I end up walking into a spot, I'm dressed up, and it's a hood spot. And I'm drawing the wrong type of attention. And the reason why you don't want to do that also is because that potentially makes you a target. You know, I got a praying mama, so I've never been in any really bad situation, but it does create a feeling of discomfort, and I have to be present in that moment because I don't want to get jacked up, you know, on some wild stuff. Mike T. the Gent said, liquor before beer, you're in the clear. Before liquor gets you sick. Okay, see, it's been a minute. Me and my wife don't really drink that much anymore, so that tells you uh, what it is. So that is again a mistake that a lot of men make. So another mistake is that even stylish men make are not knowing what you're wearing, and this is again on two levels. The first one is literally not knowing what you have on. So I got yelled at. I didn't get yelled at, but the dude I was trying to convey this to got a little upset with me because I was trying to keep him from passing out, right? So this cat had on corduroy in the summertime. Now, be clear, a liveman, a dude who really knows what he's doing, can wear corduroy in the summer. But there's a type of corduroy that you need to wear, and there's a way that the corduroy pinwells need to be in order for you to be comfortable with wearing corduroy in the summer. And it's recommended to wear corduroy in certain places, right? So let me set that caveat. This guy didn't know any of that. This guy just saw he had on corduroy. He had seen it and was like, "Oh, this is dope. Look, I'm gonna wear this tonight." I knew the guy, but I didn't know the guy, right? So we're in the party. He can't really change. This was a mistake on my part, but I just wanted to let him know. So I pulled him to the side. I was like, "Hey, bro, I want to let you know it's a really dope, jacket that you got on, but it's like August and it's like 85 degrees outside. You may not want to throw that on." And then he had it layered on like it was like a fall look. And I was like, that's just gonna be a little hot for you. So I'm just saying you may want to save that to like end of September, October, to get your fall look together. And he was like, yeah, man, appreciate it. So he goes back and tells an acquaintance of mine, like, yo, man, what's up with your man? He out here hating on my look because I'm trying to, because I'm out here looking good. He must be jealous. And I was like, nah, bro, I was just trying to assist. And it's because a lot of guys don't know what they're wearing, right? So I even have guys who dress well. They buy high end clothing. They'll come in and say something like, um, I need a suit, but I don't want to wear wool because I got to wear it in the summer. And I'm like, um, yeah, you actually want to wear wool if it's going to be in the summer? Taylor Bone, what's going on, bro? And they're like, nah, because wool's too hot. And so I'll pull out a Super 150s tropical wool, or I'll pull out a wool fresco, or I'll pull out a wool hop sack. And they're like, oh, this is wool? And I'm like, yeah. Wool is the fiber, but this can be woven in so many different ways. This is why wool is a cool and comfortable fabric for the fall and winter, but also for the spring and summer, right? So a lot of guys don't even know the content of what they're wearing or why they're wearing or the context of what they're wearing. And the thing that I realized about almost every man is that every man wants to be and feel competent. They want to feel like they know what they're doing. I see this with guys who are wearing watches. They'll talk about the winding mechanism. They'll talk about the way that it's made. Is it Swiss made? They'll talk about the diameter of the watch, the band and bezel, what makes it expensive, what makes it something that is interesting, right? And they will also talk to you about the history of the brand. If they're talking about their cars, or if their interest is cars, they can give you all the breakdowns of the types of cars that they like and what the 0 to 60 uh, speed is, right? All of those different types of things. And so in clothing, I'm always fascinated by the fact that guys will pay attention to all those other things. But when it comes to their personal style, they don't have a understanding or understanding of what it is that they're wearing and then what it's going to say about them, right? The other side of this is not knowing what you're wearing for events. So I can tell you how many times guys will walk in um, to the shop that I work with, and they will talk about a upcoming trip, and they don't know what to wear. And it is a wedding, it is a cocktail party, a birthday party, a charity event, a cocktail experience, or a date-driven opportunity or experience. And when I say date driven, I'm thinking like the Kentucky Derby, I'm thinking Mardi Gras, any of these different types of things. Zeb Keller said maybe they don't think clothing is mechanical enough, or maybe that's possible. Um, and so they don't know what to wear, right, in these situations. Now, most guys, they know if it's black tie, now I got to throw on a tuxedo. But there'll still be guys that come here and like, can I just wear something else? No, it's black tie. Not black tie optional. It's black tie. So you need to wear a tux. For the shop will allow them to rent one as long as it's not the same day. While we're not huge advocates of it, it does serve a purpose, and they have great rentals, so it's fine, right? But they don't know what they're wearing and what is going to make them look their best. Now, these guys also have means, right? So they're willing to make an investment, um, and as long as they can have some utility after they initially wear it, they're okay. But even in those spaces, we have to think about tailoring for deliverables. We have to think about what we can do for tailoring in order to make sure that we have it in a timely manner before they travel or before the event, right? So they don't know what they're wearing. They don't have any clue because they have piss poor planning. No shade to them, right? But they have piss poor planning. And so they are always in this reactive mode that doesn't allow them to look good because they are doing that previous mistake and missing the moment, right? Um, and so when you are in those spaces, it's important to know what you're wearing. So let's just go through the quick top three. Black tie optional means tuxedo and or very conservative dark suit, white shirt, and then dark tie, right? Black tie optional. If you're going to do cocktail or a party party look, they'll say festive look on some invitations. This is when you can have fun with the colorful sport coat, or you can wear a suit with a fun shirt like a multicolored gingham check or a multicolored stripe, any of these different types of things, right? But you're still going to have a certain level of conservatism. If somebody says, dress up, that means anything. That could mean throw on jeans, a great button down, or if it's fall winter, a great turtleneck or mock neck, and then a vest for some people, or that could mean you throwing on a suit or you could be throwing on a sport coat and a great pair of trousers. I would tell you to err on the side of being more casual, because if you're way dressed up and everybody else is not, it's just not a good look, right? So you just want to pay attention to what you're wearing and then pay attention to what you're wearing. The last mistake that is just a mistake that even the most stylish men make is not appreciating what you have. And this again comes in two folds. The first one is not really appreciating it, not like being thankful for what you have. But the other side is not taking care of what you have. And this is why I'm such a big advocate of investing in your clothing. One, because you're going to spend money, you're going to pay attention to what it is that you're purchasing, and so you're not going to waste it. But two, you're going to take care of it. You're going to make sure that it has wear. Like this, for instance, this sweater I think I've had for almost 15 years, right? Got it on eBay. Didn't spend a lot of money for it, but this has many stories. It's been relatively well taken care of. Maybe not so much early on, but it's been well taken care of. It has had so much utility and been dressed up, dressed down, thrown on for dates, thrown on for work before. And so there is utility in the item, but I also appreciate the colors. I appreciate the depth and nuance that you can pull out of this piece. I appreciate the colors and the way that it plays with my skin tone, how it can be utilized with other colors to create a more dynamic story. And I also appreciate how I can put different looks together. So, because I appreciate all those things, I recognize all of those things, I then take care of this very differently. I don't want this to be damaged. I didn't want it to be cheap because I wanted to have longevity with it. But a lot of us, and I have done this before, will get things because it's cheap, and then we get upset when we really like it and it starts to break down or it falls apart because of planned obsolescence, which is just the practice of making something so that it begins to deteriorate and doesn't have any staying power, right? And so part of the appreciation is appreciating yourself by taking care of what you have. This is why I tell guys you should iron your own shirts, right? You should wash or launder your own shirts, but you should also iron them. You should take some time to shine your own shoes, right? To press your own garments, because there is an appreciation for the maintenance that comes with something that's valuable. One of the things that I've really started to learn as a young married man is my wife has maintenance costs, right? Their maintenance costs I'm happy to pay. And it's not just in one area. There is maintenance cost of time, of attention, of intention, of attendance, of anticipating her needs and really trying to position myself where she does not have to worry about things. And I often get annoyed with myself, and it can show up with her as an annoyance. But it's not. It's an annoyance with myself when she has asked me two or three things because I haven't taken care of it. Right. For me, the goal is to anticipate the needs so that she is in a relaxed state. She's in a good state. She's in a positive state, because that does so much more for her well being. And we know that what you give a woman, she enhances. So if she's in a relaxed, calm, and good feeling state, she wants to promote that to her counterpart in that space, right? So if you have a car, right? Sometimes we are looking for the next best thing, a bigger, better car, and we forget that the car that we have is getting us from A to Z or A to B. Sometimes it's A to B, right? But we can appreciate that, and that often will come back into the fray if I'm thinking about something, and then I see a story about a person who was walking 10 to 15 miles to get to work, right? Now they could have also appreciated that because throw on some gym shoes and some workout gear and walk there, speed walk there, or run there and lose some weight in the process. But they the people around them appreciate their commitment and their dedication so much that they usually gift them something, right? And I think that there's something about that to be said. When you appreciate what you have, when you show appreciation for what you have, and you take care of it, other people see that, and other people are willing to invest in that because it's the old adage: if you are faithful with few things, the Creator, God, ancestors, good fortune will provide uh, many of those things for you. Taylor Moon says nothing like pressing your own shirt. It's like a badge of honor, especially when you get the creases right. 100%, right? It does. It makes you feel a certain type of way once you've done that. So I talk about some style mistakes, but also some life mistakes in my video on YouTube. You can check it out, and it is 10 mistakes even stylish men makes. It is pretty elaborate, but you know that I enjoy conversing. So leave some thoughts and some comments, and continue to retake those mistakes. If you're feeling like you're trying to be too cool, relax, enjoy yourself, right? Do something that will make you a little uncomfortable. Go talk to five people. It doesn't have to be anything over the top. I'm not telling you to hop on a table and start singing. That would be too extra, right? But go talk to three or four people so that you can start to loosen up and people can understand that you're approachable, right? If you're not wearing four season fabrics, just make an investment in one and make sure that the fabric will breathe well, it moves well, it has some structure to it, and that way you can utilize it over those four seasons. If you are missing moments trying to be too cool or worrying about what you're wearing, plan ahead. You know that you have spring break coming up, you got summer coming up, you have a birthday coming up, you got some friends' birthdays coming up. Some of you guys have been talking about a trip for a couple months or some years. Start planning for it so that you are ready and present for those moments. And if you miss it, superficially suffer and enjoy the spaces that you're in. Like there's going to be opportunities for you to purchase, maybe, but it's not even about that. It's about you being present for the gift of life, right? We had some tragedies that happened last week. We've had some tragedies that have been happening for the last 4 months, and it reminds you about how precious and how important those moments are. So live in that moment. It's a gift, right? And know what you're wearing. Know the quality of the content that you are putting on, right? And take care of it because the more that you appreciate it, the more you're going to see others appreciating you for your appearance. All right. So I want you to try this on, see how it fits you. I appreciate you, right, for showing up and having the conversation with me, for giving me your insights and your attention. That's always appreciated. Know that I've had some mistakes with getting everything together for the lives, but I'm committed to getting better, to improving, and I'm also committed to putting out a video a week. So this week I'll be having a conversation about how you can look taller, sharper, and more powerful with your appearance. And this is not going to just be about clothing. This is going to be a deeper understanding of yourself, your physique, and how those things affect your overall structure. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. I don't see any questions or other comments. So I am going to leave you with this to try on to see how it fits you. I hope it fits you well. If it does, and you're watching a replay, leave some comments, share this with some folks. And above all, remember that you are great, right? I was going to say to be great today, but you already know that you are. So be great today. And don't ever forget that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind. So you, yes, you should always dress to address your life and your style without saying a word. We'll see you next week. Peace.